I stood at the back of the conference room trying to be invisible. They had no idea who I was. That was exactly how I wanted it. I'd been gone for years, working in places they couldn't even pronounce, pulling companies out of the gutter, and now I was back. Older, maybe quieter, but definitely not irrelevant, except that's what she called me. Her name was Samantha. Her voice rang out across the packed meeting, slicing through the air like a rusty blade. "Who even let you in here?" she demanded, her eyes raking over me like I was dirt on her shoe. "You look pathetic, irrelevant, completely lost." The others, all those suits and eager climbers, they laughed. A few looked away in embarrassment, but none of them dared to defend me. It was like middle school all over again. The moment the mean girls get a target, everyone else just stands there. My chest squeezed, a dull pain blooming behind my ribs. I could hear my own breathing, sharp and uneven. The old part of me wanted to run out of there, to shrink, to disappear. But I didn't. I met her gaze, refusing to flinch. If she'd looked a little harder, she might have recognized the woman who trained her years ago. But Samantha was too drunk on her own power to look past her own ego. "Why are you even here?" she sneered, shaking her head in mock sympathy. "You're finished, lady. You're in the wrong building." Laughter rolled through the room, sickening and hollow. And then the door swung open. Mr. Hartwell, the owner of the company, walked in with his usual calm. He scanned the faces, then spotted me. His mouth curved in a small, knowing smile. "Good to see you, Ava," he said, voice strong and steady. "Are you ready to address your team?" Samantha froze. She tried to laugh it off, but the sound died in her throat. The silence was so thick I thought the walls might crack. Hartwell stepped forward, raising his voice for the entire room to hear. "This is Ava Carter, our new CEO." It was like a lightning strike. I watched Samantha's smirk drain away, leaving behind a pale, tight-lipped horror. The rest of the team went still, eyes wide, jaws dropping, no one quite sure if this was a joke or a nightmare come to life. My pulse thudded in my ears. I took a breath. I was no one's victim anymore. Hey, if you're loving this story so far, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what happens next. Your support keeps these stories coming. Samantha tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat. I saw panic, raw and unfiltered, where a moment ago there'd been smug cruelty. Hartwell looked straight at her. "The way you spoke just now," he said, his voice hard as marble, "will have consequences." I stepped forward at last, letting my presence settle over the crowd. No more hiding, no more shrinking. The silence around me was a fortress, unbreakable. Samantha seemed to shrink by the second. I nodded at Hartwell. "Thank you," I told him. Then I looked at the faces staring back at me. People who thought I was worthless 5 minutes ago, now terrified to meet my eyes. "My name," I said clearly, "is Ava Carter, and as of today, I will be leading this company." The tremor in Samantha's hand gave her away. She was terrified, trying to mask it behind a thin, fake smile. I wanted to relish it, to rub it in her face, but I didn't, because there was something far more satisfying coming. She would learn what real leadership looked like. As I looked across the stunned faces, I felt a spark inside me, something that had nearly died all those years ago. Power. And this time, I wouldn't let anyone take it from me. They all scrambled after that meeting. I could practically taste their panic, the way it rattled around the halls and offices. Samantha tried to recover, latching onto anyone who'd listen, whispering that I was some washed-up corporate leftover who got lucky. I let her talk. Let them all talk. The truth was, I needed to see the truth of this place with my own eyes. That's why I'd asked Mr. Hartwell to keep my appointment a secret until the last minute. I wanted to witness the rot without a mask. The moment the nameplate changed, people would play nice. That was useless to me. I needed to see the wolves with their teeth out, and Samantha had delivered perfectly. In my private office, the same one I'd once dreamed of long ago, I looked out over the city skyline, fingers pressed against the cold glass. So many battles fought out there, and here I was again, staring down another. There was a knock. "Come in," I said. Samantha entered, trying to look poised. She closed the door softly behind her, eyes darting around like a trapped animal. "Ava," she began, forcing a smile. "I'd like to, clear the air." "Clear the air?" I repeated. "After what you said in front of 100 employees?" Her fake confidence faltered. "It was a misunderstanding. I didn't recognize you." I laughed, short and sharp. "You recognized weakness. You thought you could break it down. That's what you recognized." She flinched. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Samantha tried again, voice sugary. "I've always respected you, Ava. I just didn't know who you were." "Save it," I cut in. "Respect is shown in how you treat everyone, Samantha, not just a CEO." A shadow crossed her face. Hate, or maybe shame. It was hard to tell. "So what now?" She spat, dropping the act. "You going to fire me?" I considered her. It would have been easy, satisfying. But I'd learned something about easy revenge. It never really fixes anything. Instead, I leaned forward. "No, Samantha. I'm going to give you a chance." Her eyes flickered in confusion. "There's a division on its last legs," I told her. "Redwood. Falling apart, losing money, morale in the gutter. You're going to go there. You're going to lead it." She stared like I'd slapped her. "What?" "That place is dead." I smiled, cold. "That's why you're going there. You say you're such a great leader. Prove it. You have 90 days to turn Redwood around." She looked horrified. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm very serious," I replied. "You called me irrelevant and pathetic. Here's your shot to show me how it's done." She sputtered, rage warring with fear. "And if I refuse?" "Then I'll fire you," I said simply. "For cause, and everyone will know why." Her shoulders slumped. For a second, she looked exactly like the kid I'd once mentored standing in my shadow. But then that familiar fire came back, mean and stubborn. "Fine," she hissed. "I'll fix Redwood, and when I do, you'll wish you'd never come back." I almost smiled. "We'll see." She turned on her heel and left. I let out a long breath, leaning back in my chair. My reflection stared at me from the window. Older, wiser, and still carrying old scars. This was a test for Samantha, but it was also a test for me. Could I trust someone like her to change? Or was I setting her up to fail on purpose? I didn't know yet, but I knew one thing. Redwood was about to become the crucible where Samantha would either burn away the poison inside her or melt down completely. I gathered my folders, steadying my thoughts. I would visit Redwood soon myself, but for now, I needed Samantha to feel the weight of her own choices. Maybe the lesson she needed was to finally see what leadership really meant, and to learn that stepping on people was no way to build anything that lasts. I stepped out of the car at Redwood Division, and the smell of stale coffee and cold dust hit me like a slap. I'd read the files. Redwood was a mess on paper, but nothing in those charts and quarterly statements prepared me for what I saw. The warehouse doors hung crooked on their hinges. The offices were dim and cluttered. Equipment was outdated, and no one bothered to greet me as I walked in. A couple of workers glanced up, recognized me from the head office, then quickly looked away. So this was the empire Samantha had to save. Part of me wondered if I'd been too cruel, sending her here. But the moment I saw Redwood, I remembered her laugh in that conference room, the way she'd tried to shred me in front of everyone. This was a fair chance if she wanted it badly enough. I took the back stairwell up to the Redwood manager's office. From inside, I heard Samantha's voice, sharp and cutting, before I even opened the door. "Get your act together," she barked. "You people are incompetent. That's why you're about to lose your jobs." I closed my eyes. So she'd chosen the whip over the hand, just like before. When I stepped in, the employees scattered like startled birds. Samantha stood there with a scowl, arms folded tight. I studied her for a second. She looked rattled already. Redwood was eating her alive, and she hadn't even been here a full day. "Impressive leadership style," I said, letting my sarcasm drip. Her jaw clenched. "They're useless, Ava. Lazy and clueless. I don't know how you expect me to fix this if they won't even listen." I shook my head, letting her frustration hang in the air. "Maybe," I told her carefully, "they don't listen because no one's ever listened to them." She rolled her eyes. "Don't lecture me, Ava. These people don't deserve patience." I stepped closer, voice low. "They deserve respect, Samantha, whether you think so or not." She turned away, unwilling to hear it. I could see she was scared. Redwood was too big for her to bully into submission, and she knew it. One of the workers, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes, raised a trembling hand. "Excuse me," she said softly. "Who's really in charge here? I need to know." Samantha spun around, eyes blazing. "I'm in charge," she snapped. "Don't you forget that." The woman flinched, nodding, and scurried away. I felt a knot twist in my stomach. If Samantha kept this up, Redwood would fall apart even faster. "I'll be watching," I told her, leaving before she could argue. Down on the factory floor, I walked the production line alone. Machines sat idle because no one trusted the repair budget. Workers leaned against the walls, heads down, spirits broken. Redwood wasn't just financially bankrupt. It was emotionally dead, too. I asked one of the engineers, a quiet man named Theo, how things had gotten so bad. He sighed. "Management doesn't listen," he told me. "They cut costs, cut hours, treat us like disposable parts. We stopped caring a long time ago." I nodded, thanking him, then looked up at the grimy skylights. This place could be saved. I felt it. But Samantha would have to change everything about how she led, or Redwood would be her grave. As I left the production line, I spotted Samantha alone on the catwalk above the warehouse floor, staring down at the workers. Her face was tense, her hands clenching the railing so hard her knuckles went white. Maybe, I thought, this was the first time she really saw what she was up against. If Redwood failed, it would be on her shoulders. And I wouldn't save her. I stepped out into the parking lot, letting the breeze wash over me, clearing the stale air from my lungs. Samantha was on her own now. She'd have to choose, crush these workers completely, or somehow learn to lift them. I wasn't sure which path she'd take, but I would be back to check. Redwood was about to teach Samantha that leadership was never about power. It was about people. And she'd learn that lesson the hard way. I went back to Redwood 2 weeks later, wanting to see the results for myself. Part of me hoped Samantha had turned a corner, found some scrap of empathy buried under all that arrogance. But the moment I stepped through the warehouse doors, I knew nothing had changed. The place was still choked with tension. Workers moved around like ghosts, heads down, afraid to meet my eyes. Machines stood silent, no energy, no pride. I climbed the steps to the manager's office, bracing myself. Samantha was there, pacing like a caged tiger. Her voice was hoarse, her eyes bloodshot. Papers littered her desk, most of them crumpled from being thrown in frustration. "Ava," she snapped when she saw me. "You're early." "Checking on progress," I answered evenly. "How's Redwood responding?" She barked a hollow laugh. "They hate me." I shrugged, letting the words hang in the air. "Maybe you should ask yourself why." Her eyes flashed. "They're lazy, spoiled. You can't fix a place like this, Ava?" I crossed my arms, refusing to let her off the hook. "Or maybe they're tired of being treated like they don't matter." She slammed a fist on the table, startling even herself. "I don't have time to babysit feelings." I looked at her, really looked, and saw how deep the fear had sunk. Redwood was swallowing her. "Then you'll fail," I said quietly. "Because these people are all you have. If they don't trust you, Redwood is dead." She glared at me, breathing hard, but she didn't argue. That alone told me she was closer to breaking than she'd ever admit. I left her in that suffocating office, needing her to feel Redwood closing in. If she wanted to survive, she had to change, and no one could force that choice but her. Down on the factory floor, I spoke with a few of the workers again. Theo, the quiet engineer, pulled me aside. "She's worse than the last manager," he whispered, eyes darting upstairs. "She doesn't listen to anyone." "I know," I said. "But tell me, if she did listen, what would you tell her?" He paused, surprised. Then the words poured out. "We need working machines. We need honest schedules. We need to believe our jobs aren't going to vanish tomorrow. We'd do the work if someone just respected us enough to hear us." That word, respect, rang through me like a church bell. Samantha had no clue how to give it, not yet. I thanked Theo, then left Redwood without another word to Samantha. She needed to sit with her failure to feel it down to the bone. But later that evening, as I reviewed the financial reports from Redwood, a sick worry gnawed at me. If she couldn't change, it wouldn't just be Samantha who fell. It would be the jobs of dozens of people who'd already been broken enough. I tried to shake it off, but sleep wouldn't come that night. The next morning, I was back at Redwood before sunrise. Samantha was already there, red-eyed, slumped over the desk like a hollow shell. I could smell stale coffee, harsh and bitter, filling the stale air. When she looked up at me, there was no arrogance left, only desperation. "I can't make them listen," she rasped. I sighed. "Because you don't listen to them. That's why." Her shoulders trembled. "I don't know how." The confession startled me. Samantha, queen of confidence, queen of cruelty, admitting she didn't know how to lead. "You start by shutting up," I told her, gentler than before, "and hearing their fears, one by one. Let them teach you how to help them." She shook her head, tears welling up, but didn't let them fall. "They hate me." "Maybe," I said, "but hate can change to trust, if you give them a reason." She looked away, lost. And in that moment, for the first time, I saw someone worth saving. I left her there to think. This was the breaking point. She could rise from it, or Redwood would eat her alive. I came back to Redwood the following week expecting more chaos, maybe even a total collapse. But something was different the moment I stepped inside. The floor was still cluttered, machines still wheezing with age, but there was a new note in the air, a sense of watchfulness. Samantha stood near the break room, not yelling this time, but listening. Actually listening. It stunned me. A small knot of workers huddled around her, explaining a scheduling issue. Samantha didn't interrupt. She nodded, scribbled notes, even asked a few honest questions. I nearly stopped breathing. After they dispersed, she caught sight of me. Her face was drawn, exhausted, but there was a tiny flicker of something I'd never seen before. Humility. "Checking on me again?" she asked, voice ragged. I nodded. "How's it going?" She sighed, shoulders sagging. "I tried what you said, listening, letting them talk." "And?" "It's hard," she admitted. "They don't trust me yet, but some of them, they're starting to try." I felt a quiet hope spark in my chest. Maybe, just maybe, this place could change. I walked with her through the main production line, watching as she greeted workers, asked them about machine issues, shift changes, their families. Awkwardly, yes, but it was a start. Near one of the oldest assembly tables, Theo, the engineer, flagged us down. "Samantha," he said carefully, "there's something you need to see." He handed her a spreadsheet, lines of numbers running off the page, her brow furrowed. "What's this?" Theo shifted, nervous. "It's the outgoing inventory. Except, it doesn't match the incoming, not even close." My stomach went cold. Samantha looked up, eyes sharp. "You think someone's skimming?" Theo nodded. "I think someone's selling stock off the books." Samantha clenched the page in her hand. "How long?" "At least a year," Theo said. "Probably longer." She looked ready to explode, but then took a breath. That's it, I thought. She's finally controlling herself. "Show me everything," she told Theo. "Every line, every invoice." He nodded, relief washing over his face. We left him to his work, heading to the loading dock. Samantha's hands shook, but her voice stayed steady. "This place was bleeding out," she muttered, "and I blame the workers. But someone was gutting it from the inside the whole time." I nodded. Hate is easier than asking hard questions. She gave me a bitter smile. "Guess I'm learning." She was. Slowly, painfully, but she was. That night, I stayed late with her in the dusty redwood office, going through ledgers and shipping orders line by line. The pattern was clear. Forged signatures, missing pallets, false returns. It was someone on her own so-called loyal team, a name that stung. Patrick, Redwood's shift supervisor, the same man who'd been defending her the loudest the first week she arrived. Samantha's hands curled into fists. He played me. I watched her face, waiting for the old Samantha to come roaring back, the Samantha who would have fired every worker in a rage. But she surprised me again. "We'll confront him tomorrow," she said, voice tight but controlled. "I want to catch him red-handed." I nodded, pride warming me. Maybe there was more steel in her than I'd given her credit for. The right kind of steel this time. As I headed to the elevator, I glanced back through the dusty glass wall. Samantha stood alone, studying the evidence, her shoulders squared, breathing deep. She looked like a leader. A raw, untested leader, still covered in old scars, but a leader nonetheless. For the first time, Redwood had a chance. I stepped out into the night, breathing in the sharp air, letting it steady me. Redwood wasn't saved yet, but Samantha had crossed an invisible line tonight, leaving behind the worst pieces of herself. Tomorrow, she'd face Patrick, and then we'd see if she had the courage to truly finish what she started. The next morning, Redwood felt like a battlefield about to break into open war. Word had spread that Samantha had found something, though no one quite knew what. I stood by the security monitors with her, watching Patrick pace on the loading dock. He had no idea his little empire was about to collapse. Samantha was stone-faced beside me, the evidence folder clutched tight in her hands. "You sure you're ready?" I asked her. She nodded once. No more excuses. I stepped back to let her handle it. Redwood needed to see her stand her ground, not me swooping in to rescue her. She walked across the concrete floor toward Patrick, head held high. Workers paused mid-task, sensing the tension. "Patrick," she called, voice echoing. He turned, surprised, and tried to flash that same easy grin he'd used on her since day one. "Boss," he said. "I was just about to—" She cut him off, holding up the folder. "This. You want to explain it?" His face twitched. I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie," Samantha snapped. Her voice rang through Redwood like a bell. "Theo and I matched every shipment, every missing pallet, every forged return. It ends with you." Patrick went pale. Around them, workers crept closer, drawn in by the confrontation. "You're finished," she told him. "Security is waiting outside to walk you out." He tried to bluster, but no one believed him anymore. Samantha had the proof, and this time she wasn't afraid to use it. Patrick was led out, red-faced and silent, under the stunned eyes of the workers. Samantha turned to face them, breathing hard but steady. "I let this happen," she told them, voice low but clear. "I didn't listen. I blamed you. I was wrong." The workers shifted uneasily, surprised. "I'm not here to destroy Redwood," she went on. "I'm here to fix it. But I can't do that alone. I need you with me." For a moment, no one moved. Then Theo stepped forward. "You got rid of him," Theo said. "No one ever had the guts before." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crew. Samantha's eyes softened. "Then help me," she asked. "Tell me what Redwood really needs." One by one, they started talking. New parts for the machines, safety upgrades, realistic schedules, overtime pay without threats. She listened, really listened. As I watched from the side, I felt a small knot in my chest loosen. This was the change Redwood had been begging for. But the fight wasn't over yet. A deeper problem hovered like a storm cloud. Redwood's biggest client, Millertown Industries, was threatening to cancel their contract. If they pulled out, Nothing would save Redwood. Not Samantha, not even me. That afternoon, Samantha stood in front of the entire Redwood team. "We have one shot," she said. "Millertown gave us 30 days to prove we can meet their new requirements. If we fail, Redwood is gone." Silence crushed the room. She continued, "I know you're tired. You have every right to be. But if you give me a chance, if you give yourselves a chance, we can do this. I will fight for you. But you have to fight too." There was something raw in her voice. Honest. Theo stepped forward again. "If you fight for us, we'll fight with you." A ripple of hope moved through the warehouse. Samantha nodded, swallowing hard. I caught her eye as she stepped down. She didn't say a word, but I saw it there. Fear, courage, determination, all tangled up. This was the leader Redwood needed. Battered, imperfect, but willing to change. I felt the smallest smile pull at my lips as I turned to leave. The next 30 days would test Samantha harder than anything yet. But for the first time, Redwood had a fighting chance. 30 days passed in a blur. Redwood's walls seemed to breathe again, pulsing with a kind of raw, hopeful energy I hadn't seen in years. Samantha was everywhere. On the floor, checking machines, in meetings with clients, even helping clean up after shifts ended. She still stumbled. Sometimes the old Samantha would slip out, snapping too quickly or throwing up her defenses. But each time, she caught herself, breathed, and tried again. I respected that more than I could ever say. On the morning of the board review, Redwood's warehouse was spotless. Machines whirred steadily. People stood a little taller, even in their grease-stained uniforms. I arrived early and found Samantha by the loading dock, clutching a printed report and shaking hands. She looked at me with wild eyes like a soldier about to step onto a battlefield. "Today's the day," she whispered. "Yes," I agreed. "You've done the work. Now show them." She nodded, swallowing hard. We rode the elevator up to the executive conference room. The board members were already seated, cold eyes and crisp suits, ready to dissect every weakness Redwood might still hold. Samantha stepped up to the projector, voice catching just once before she steadied it. "Redwood was dying," she began, no excuses in her tone. "I made mistakes at first. I own that. But these workers? They showed me how to lead." A few skeptical eyebrows rose. Samantha ignored them. "We improved safety," she continued. "Cut waste by 20%, delivered a new prototype 2 weeks early, and Millertown Industries renewed their contract for 3 more years." A wave of shocked murmurs rolled around the table. She clicked to the next slide, laying out numbers I'd double-checked myself. Stabilized revenue, lower turnover, a steady climb back to profitability. The board members flipped through their printed packets, surprised and, for the first time, respectful. Samantha took a deep breath. I could not have done this alone. Redwood was broken because no one listened. I was broken because I didn't listen either. But we fixed it. Together. Silence. Then Mr. Hartwell, seated at the head of the table, spoke. "I have to admit, I thought Redwood was unsalvageable." He paused, letting the weight of that sink in. "But you proved me wrong," he finished. "Congratulations." I could see Samantha's entire body sag with relief. She bowed her head for a second, tears threatening, but kept her voice steady. "Thank you," she managed. The board voted to continue Redwood's funding and even granted money for new equipment upgrades. Cheers broke out downstairs when word filtered through. As the meeting broke up, Samantha stood alone by the window, staring at the distant skyline. I approached quietly. "You did it," I told her. Her voice was raw. "I don't know how to feel." I nodded. "Feel proud. You earned it." She turned to me, eyes glistening. "You could have fired me that day," she said. "Why didn't you?" I thought for a moment before answering. "Because I saw someone worth saving." She looked away, blinking back tears. "Thank you, Ava." I touched her shoulder, light but steady. "Redwood isn't perfect yet. Neither are you. But you're on the right path, don't forget it." She nodded slowly, the weight of it all pressing on her shoulders, but somehow making her stand straighter. As I left the room, I passed a group of Redwood workers gathered by the lobby doors. They had flowers, a rough bouquet of daisies and bright lilies held together with packing tape. "For Samantha," Theo said, smiling shyly. She earned it. I accepted it on her behalf, my throat tightening. I'd bring them up to her later. Redwood wasn't just numbers on a ledger anymore, it was alive again, and so was Samantha. And as I stepped out into the sunlight, I felt the smallest whisper of peace. Maybe giving people a chance to change really was worth it. I walked Redwood's floor a week after the board meeting, breathing in the new energy. The change was almost unreal. Machines hummed with purpose, workers laughed on breaks. Even the hallways smelled cleaner, fresher. Samantha was at the center of it, coordinating a shipment schedule with Theo, her voice calm but firm. Seeing her in command, and respected, brought a strange warmth to my chest. She saw me and broke into a tired grin. "Hey, boss?" "Boss yourself," I teased. "Looks like Redwood is finally standing on its own." She nodded, pride shining through her exhaustion. "I can't believe how far we came." "You earned every bit of it," I told her honestly. A moment of quiet passed between us, the weight of everything we'd survived settling over the space. Then Samantha's phone buzzed. Her smile slipped away as she read the message. "What is it?" I asked, seeing her expression darken. She handed me the screen. A short, clipped email from the corporate legal team. Urgent. A rival firm is attempting a hostile acquisition of Redwood's patents. CEO's immediate presence requested. My stomach dropped. "Hostile takeover?" Samantha whispered, voice shaking again, but with a new edge of anger rather than fear. I read it twice. Someone wanted Redwood's patents, and its comeback story, for themselves. They'd waited until Redwood was stable, then swooped in like vultures. "They think we're weak," I said coldly. "That we're still vulnerable." Samantha's jaw set hard. "They're going to find out they're wrong." I felt a flicker of pride. The old Samantha would have panicked, lashed out, blamed the workers. This new Samantha wanted to fight. "Let's go," I told her. "We're not letting them tear this place apart." We headed for my car together, hearts pounding, a strange partnership forged in battle. Redwood's fate had tied us together now, whether we liked it or not. On the drive to headquarters, Samantha sat silent, watching the highway blur past. Finally, she spoke, voice quiet. "I was terrified of you, Ava," she confessed. "That day in the boardroom, I mocked you because I was scared you'd see through me." I glanced at her. "You were right to be scared," I said gently. "But you learned. That matters more than how you started." She nodded, swallowing hard. I needed to say I'm sorry." And there it was. Real, unpolished, sincere. "I forgive you," I told her, surprising myself with how true it felt. "And I'm glad you're here." We pulled into the downtown tower, steel and glass glinting in the sun where corporate lawyers waited for us. The moment we stepped out of the car, I felt that old battle rush fill my veins. Samantha fell in step beside me, a quiet strength radiating from her. "What if they win?" she asked. I shook my head. "They won't. Redwood is stronger now. You are stronger now." A thin smile crossed her face. "Then let's show them." The elevators carried us upward, the numbers ticking by, each floor a reminder of how high the stakes had grown. Redwood's patents represented its future, and all those jobs, all those families, depended on what happened next. As the doors opened, I saw a boardroom packed with lawyers, rival executives, and grim-faced Redwood employees who'd been summoned as witnesses. I squared my shoulders. Samantha matched me, eyes fierce. This was our company now, messy, imperfect, but ours. We stepped into the room together side by side, no longer mentor and rival, but something closer to allies. I caught her eye one last time before the meeting began. "Remember what you built," I told her, "and fight for it." She took a steadying breath. "I will." We walked forward, ready to face them all. Whatever came next, Redwood wouldn't fall easily, not with both of us fighting for it. And as I took my place at the head of the table, I knew one truth more powerful than any contract. Redemption wasn't just about fixing the past. It was about protecting the future.